Hello and welcome to the Central Television. The headlines at this hour. Central Bank of Nigeria says interventions to stabilize the naira yield positive results. West Africa bloc urges reconciliation with coup-hit states. President Talon denies plans to revise the constitution. Details to come your way shortly. For our viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is NC Continental Prime. I am Lekon Onobanjo. Our coverage of the African continent tonight begins in West Africa, where Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has assented to the Electricity Act Amendment Bill 2024 into law. Special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Ajuri Igalale, on Friday said the Electricity Act Amendment Bill 2024 seeks to address the development and environmental concerns of host communities. It also sets aside 5% of the actual annual operating expenditures of power generating companies from the preceding year for the development of their respective host communities. Sponsored by Babajimi Benson, who represents Ikorodu Federal Constituency of Lagos State, the bill was passed by the House of Representatives on July 27, 2023, and the Senate on November 14, 2023. Let's now head into the world of business, where the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Yemi Cardoso, says the measures taken so far by the Apex Bank to stabilize foreign exchange rates have started yielding positive results. He noted that these measures would help to also minimize the distortion that high exchange rate has on inflation, as they are closely related. Cardoso, who disclosed this during a briefing of the Joint Senate Committee on Finance, Banking, Insurance and Financial Institutions on Friday, said that $1 billion has come into the Nigerian market in the past few days through the CBN interventions. He, however, said that for these measures to be stable and sustainable, Nigeria must, as a country, moderate its demands for foreign exchange.
Indeed, this is the major topic of concern in our villages, our towns, and our cities. The urgency of the matter is not lost on us at the Central Bank. And I assure you, we are working tirelessly with colleagues across government, including with the leadership of the National Assembly, to bring lasting solutions. Inflation. In December 2023, the economic landscape reveals significant shifts. The headline inflation stood at 28.92% in December 2023, as against 28.2% in November. Food inflation was 33.93%, as against 32.84% in November, while core inflation was 23.06%, as against 22.3%, 38% in October 2023.
To discuss this, we are joined by Temitope Kolade, Senior Manager and Lead ESG and Climate Change Services at Anderson. Thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good evening.
So we just listened to the Apex Bank Governor, Yemi Cardoso, talking about some measures that has been taken and its desired effects. But I'd like to find out from you, how are these measures anticipated to impact inflation in Nigeria?
Oh, well, the measures are indeed taking shape, yielding positive results, as the CBN governor has said. But I think he also added the caution to it to say that it's only to the extent that we don't continue to have so much pressure and demands for foreign currency. And that's something that nobody can really give assurances on, given the fact that we are import dependent. So the real question would be that how many more businesses would survive this in Nigeria? How many more businesses would be able to run without having so much demand for Naira? And again, it then calls for maybe some questions as to whether we can really deal with inflation. Yes, you would think that given the reduced influx of Naira and the circulation of Naira in the system, we would expect that going forward, there will be, again, the raised interest rates from the banks, there will be less Naira for people to play around with, and that should stem the demand for goods. So it would bring some immediate hardship to people also. So maybe that way we should have some reduction in inflation in the medium term.
Okay, so from what you've seen so far, has there been any significant influx of foreign investment into the Nigerian markets in recent days due to the interventions of the Apex Bank?
Yeah, foreign investments, maybe in terms of foreign portfolio investment, if you think about the fact that just about a day or two ago, the CBN had also unctioned through the DMO some treasury bills, and the rates are so, I mean, welcoming, 19 up to the upwards of 19%, even more than what the CBN rules permitted. So that again had some impacts, and if you think about it in some way, you would see that if you peg the Naira to dollar at the rate it is today and it doesn't depreciate further, it might be better to even liquidate your USD and use it to buy the treasury bills and have some gains in the short run, especially if you're operating within the secondary market. So indeed, yes, some monies, I mean, it was oversubscribed as a matter of fact. So yes, it's yielded some result in that sense.
So if the CBN is able to sustain these measures, is there a possibility that after stabilizing the forex rates in the market, there's a possibility that we might begin to see a drop or an appreciation in the value of the Naira probably in the coming weeks or months?
Well, it appears that the value of the Naira is what it is at the moment. I mean, it appears that's really the true value of the Naira as it were, if you think about it. And there are a couple of other fiscal considerations that we need to put into consideration, right? I'm not going to be too optimistic about the fact that there's going to be a drop in the coming days, because it's only a matter of time before we see so much demand for the USD or foreign currencies altogether again, because like I said earlier, we are import dependent, right? And if we don't address the issue of supply, then we continue to dance around the same issue. So maybe in the real sense, the question is, what's the true value of the Naira to the USD? As a matter of fact, because the USD is currently seen as a store of value, and people don't trust the Naira that much. Until we have that trust, then we can begin to have that stability, and maybe at some point when we have some productivity within the economy, we can then begin to see reduction. It would happen.
Okay, so let's now talk about the issue of productivity. Yemi Cardoso said that the measures have been able to attract $1 billion into the Nigerian market. Of course, we know that Nigeria is not really an export-dependent nation. So are there other ways by which we can improve on our productivity? Are there ways whereby we can scale up production and exports to generate more dollars for the local markets?
Well, unfortunately, the whole, business or assignment doesn't lie with the government. What the government is doing at the moment also has some other impact, even on the private sector. When, for instance, you have treasury bill yielding as much as 19%, the question would be, can the private organizations raise commercial papers? Can they begin to also ask people to give them money? At what rate are they going to have that? It could stifle some foreign direct investment in itself, right? So it's really a very careful, a situation that has to be treated very carefully, right? So I'm not so sure, if you ask me, how it will help to raise productivity in the long run until we begin to see those activities that governments actually invest these funds that they have into, and they're able to give us security in the land, and people trust that they can bring in their money and take them out at a stable rate, so to speak. Then we begin to see this sort of productivity. And of course, the private sector has a lot of work to do. They must have that assurance that they can put money into the system and they will get it out at any point that they want it, so that there's more activity in terms of economic activity and then yielding productivity within the system. So a lot of things around infrastructure has to be put in place.
So finally, what is the projected path of inflation in Nigeria for the current year? We are at 28.92%. What do you think by the end of this year the inflation rate would be?
I won't specify a rate, because I really can't see tomorrow.
Well, people are actually hoping with these policies coming on board, there's a possibility that, of course, it might reduce or come down at some point. So do you see that happening?
I'm trying to be very cautiously optimistic, right? And I would say that we should expect some slight increase, right? But I think that the CBN is really getting at the work. And in the immediate, we should expect that these activities, these actions would stem, these efforts would stem the tide of the increase. And that in the meantime, if we're going to have increase going forward, they would be marginal. And that at some point we could, hopefully, if some of the reforms then begin to yield results before the end of the year, possibly we could have some reduction, so to speak. But I'm saying that with a lot of caution in my mind.
Okay, Temitope Kolade, thank you so much for joining us and for talking to us at this time.
Thanks for having me.
So let's quickly listen to a report as regards the issue around inflation and the currency appreciation, depreciation, value, and all that. Let's watch it.
The appearance of the senior officials of the nation's apex bank and members of Nigeria's economic team, including the Minister of Agriculture, is coming barely 3 days after the Senate had summoned the CBN governor to give an explanation on the state of the nation's economy. Lawmakers say they are determined to get to the root cause of the receding value of the naira in the exchange market so as to stop this downward trend. Responding to the myriad of economic challenges the country is currently facing, the governor of Nigeria's central bank says that comprehensive strategies have been put in place to address the current exchange rate volatility being witnessed. He says that with over $1 billion forex inflow in recent days, it is evident that the policies are working.
For example, upwards of the past few days, we have had over $1 billion that have come into the market. Over $1 billion. And this, quite frankly, is the answer to the question. Because the question was raised as to how do we know that your policies are working? And in fact, we were challenged to say that in fact they are not. And I would argue that with the numbers speaking and saying what is going on.
He adds that for the measures to be sustainable at stopping the free fall of the naira, Nigerians must reduce their appetite for the consumption of foreign-made goods and services.
Honestly, CBN has no magic wand. We do not have. Our responsibility is in the process. If foreign exchange comes into us, we manage it in a way that is in the best interest of the country, and we do not have excessive volatility. Okay, that's one. Our argument on the demand side is that we as Nigerians also must work together to moderate demand. Where there are opportunities for us to substitute locally, so we should.
On food security, the Minister of Agriculture blamed the situation on the failure of the past administration to not plan properly for the wet season farming. Also, the Minister of Finance called for an open market, saying that measures must be put in place to prevent end market monopoly.
I don't think there was any impact or any direct intervention by government against the 2023 cultivation. and that also impacted on the quantum of harvest that we had in 2023.
At this period of reform and vulnerability, market capture, state capture, those with the power and dominance of markets should not be allowed to use that.
With the Senate expressing worry over the situation in the country, as well as the free fall of the Naira, lawmakers said quick solutions from the Apex Bank are needed to stabilize the Naira and restore confidence to the nation's economy. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
You're watching NC Continental Prime. We're going on a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Don't go away. Many thanks for staying with us. We now pause with Nigerian stories for now to go to the southern part of the continent where South Africans have reacted after President Cyril Ramaphosa used a State of the Nation address to highlight steps taken to address the prolonged energy crisis that has vexed businesses and families alike. With its historically dominant African National Congress party struggling in the polls, he pledged thousands of new jobs ahead of knife-edge elections this year. Ramaphosa is facing an uphill battle to rally support behind the scandal-tainted ANC, which polls suggest risks losing its parliamentary majority for the first time. In power since the advent of democracy in 1994, the party of late anti-apartheid iconic Nelson Mandela has been tainted by graft and mismanagement amid high unemployment and slumbering economy. To discuss,
we are doing the people's sauna, where we are saying to the president that he needs to listen to what people have been saying, because they know the issues, but they are failing to implement what we are asking them to do in order to be there for the communities. Our communities are a pigsty, the unemployment rate is high.
There are rules that are governing the house. So what they did on the 9th of February is what they're getting now. It's back to the center, and we have tightened the rules, whether they were here or not. The SONA is going to proceed. Even if they were here, if they were misbehaving, we're going to throw them out again, so that you allow South Africans to listen to their president.
That he was unable to find one thing that he said he was going to do, that he has in fact done. We are still languishing in an energy crisis. We are still dealing with high levels of unemployment, poverty. In fact, we've regressed. When we look, he spoke very much at great length about dealing with corruption. Yet we've regressed in those indices.
And now to discuss this, we're joined by Professor Dikela Majukwana, Managing Director, GPI Corporation Limited. Thank you so much, Professor Majukwana, for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Now, in President Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address held today, what were the key policy priorities or maybe initiatives that were outlined that you can hold on to, particularly in response to the current economic and social challenges facing South Africa?
Yes, I think the key message in his address featured the problem of very high unemployment amongst the youth in South Africa, as well as infrastructure problems or other investments to solve deficiencies in infrastructure to do with energy and water and other aspects of infrastructure in South Africa. I think that was the key message in his speech. Of course, there was a lot of claims about past achievements since 1994. And given that this was a State of the Nation address, which is an annual statement made by the President to a joint sitting of Parliament. So there was one last year in 2023 and the previous year. So in a way, there was not a lot that was new that was said today, today as compared to about a year ago, the previous State of the Nation address. I think the underlying message is, even though he does not want to admit it, it was a statement of crisis in the country, that South Africa is going through a difficult period. Unemployment has risen by about 6% since COVID-19, and it's not showing any sign of going down. Infrastructure, the electricity problem is not going away. There have been promises that this will be resolved. For instance, last year there was a promise that by December load shedding will be a thing of the past, but none of that has materialized up to now. And of course, there are promises to do with investment in renewable energy, to do with climate change and energy transition, all of that, and that these will help solve the unemployment problem. But for that to happen, a lot of investment must take place in industry. Up to this point, South Africa is an importer of many of these, of much of the equipment that is used in solar energy production, such as solar panels, inverters, batteries. Local production has not increased at all. And only now are various companies putting plans into place to start local production of battery components, inverters, and solar panels. But much of them, I mean, last year we spent about 20 billion rands importing inverters from largely from China.
Okay, now.
So broadly speaking,
Professor Majikwane, let's quickly still look at the challenges as regards the economy, and that would have to do with the after effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So how did President Ramaphosa's address deal with issues related to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in a speech, and what were the measures or strategies that he emphasized upon to mitigate the impact of the pandemic on public health and the economy?
On the pandemic, I would say compared to previous speeches, there was not a lot of emphasis. For example, there was no mention of the post-COVID recovery plan that was launched soon in 2021, and there was no emphasis on progress on that. If you remember, a lot of economic destruction was caused by COVID-19 and the closure of factories, people losing jobs. But of course, he claims that the economy has grown since COVID-19. The numbers of jobs created since then is more than before the pandemic. But I don't know if he's talking about permanent jobs and in which sectors, because some sectors have suffered irreversible damage. For example, a combination of COVID-19 and the power crisis, and now the water crisis as a result of deficiencies in power supply, which is affecting the infrastructure to do with water supply. So I think it's very difficult. I don't think he can claim to have done much to undo the damage caused by COVID-19, especially with regard to the absence of a report on progress with respect to the COVID-19 recovery plan.
So finally, were there any significant announcements on policy changes by President Ramaphosa? Anything that has to do with business and investments, the broader population, how to cater for the challenges, socio-economic challenges, and maybe anything that speaks to economic growth for the country, anything at all?
Of course, he made a numerous announcements. I mean, these announcements to do with new infrastructure investments are not new per se. They've been made before. Some of them are repetitions, high-speed trains and all of that. But a lot of that infrastructure does not entail local production. A lot of infrastructure investments in South Africa entails importing the equipment, and that is exporting jobs. So just because it's investment in infrastructure, it doesn't translate into socio-economic benefits at all. It only means that we are exporting jobs by importing these components. There is no corresponding investment in local production of these infrastructure components. So that is a deficiency that in future the president must address, the question of local production, because to import these huge quantities Of course, some railway kits have been brought and assembled locally. There is that happening. But South Africa has got a lot of technological capacity. We've got a lot of innovation in our country that has the potential to build new industries, especially in the hydrogen space. He mentioned a lot of investment in hydrogen and to do with power to gas in the solar energy space. But again, the electrolyzers, we've got capabilities in this country to produce our own technology to do with electrolyzers. But my assumption is that they will import this equipment because up to now we've been importing it.
Okay.
And our local production not increased to correspond to the levels of investment that are taking place. And yes, there is a lot of investment taking place in building up new infrastructure to do with renewable energy. To compensate for reduction in the production of electricity from coal.
Okay.
But even there, we have lost about 25 gigawatts of power production from coal that cannot be replaced by renewable energy in a short space of.
Professor Dikela, yeah, thank you so much, Professor Dikela Majukwana. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Back to Nigerian stories. As we talk about security matters, the West African country's defense headquarters says that it has neutralized almost 300 terrorists in January alone. The director of the Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, during a bi-weekly update in the nation's capital, Abuja, says that troops will continue to engage terrorists and criminal elements and want them to either surrender or meet an unfortunate end. He assured citizens that the defense headquarters will continue to engage troublemakers as part of its mandate to restore law and order to the country.
In the month of January, troops recorded the following. We neutralized 266 terrorists. We arrested 463 of them, and we rescued 116 kidnapped hostages. We also recovered 447 assorted weapons and over 6,690 assorted ammunition. We denied the oil theft of close to 3 billion naira just in the month of January.
In southwest Nigeria, we tell you that the Lagos state government has finalized an agreement to procure additional rolling stock for the Blue Line and Red Line commuter rail operations. These extra rail cars, expected to arrive from China before the end of the year, are aimed at providing further transportation alternatives to Lagos's huge population of commuting residents. Nigeria News Central's Niyomoni provides details in this report.
Dubbed the Blue Line, Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, commenced operations on its initial 8-mile phase of the rail line on September 4, 2023. This line connects the mainland, where most residents live, with the affluent Lagos Island area, where many businesses are headquartered.
Within 30 minutes, we've been to about 4-5 places. This is really time-saving.
5 months later, additional rail cars are expected to arrive in Lagos from China before the end of the year, as the state government procures more stock.
Train is not something you just buy off the shelf. We're not as lucky as what we were with Milwaukee, which was produced, for a particular city, but we had to just pay the premium and take it off. It usually takes between 2 to 3 years, for you to finish the manufacture, because each one of them has its own specification, the platform, and the load that you require, right? But we're lucky that we've agreed with them. They've done the blue lines before, so in less than a year, right? We're going to still have a tough discussion with them. Before the end of the year, we're expecting that some of the stocks will start coming in.
Testing of the Red Line, which is set to run from Agbado to Oto and is nearing completion, has been undertaken by the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority Lamata ahead of its official opening.
We will be able to complete the red line infrastructure before the end of the first quarter of 2024. And so therefore, we expect to be able to commission the same before the end of the first quarter of 2024.
While this rail initiative is laudable, some experts believe that if the government takes appropriate action regarding transportation, health, education, and other sectors alongside maintenance culture, it may not have to contend with alternative solutions improvised by citizens to address gaps.
Lagos didn't have rail system for a very long time. The people initiated Okada system. You understand? So it's not very, very difficult because these things just didn't come. They came about because there was a gap. Create your alternative. Let the clearly state the benefit of the alternative. And for those who find it difficult to move, that other alternative is still there. That is how things should run.
The red line will be 30-kilometer long and run between Marina and Agbado, while the blue line will be 27-kilometer long, connecting Okokomaiko to Marina. As Lagosians anticipate the completion and full operation of these rail projects, they hope similar initiatives will spread to other sectors to help relieve the millions of Lagos residents. In Lagos for News Central, Ni Omani.
We also tell you that Nigeria is an import-dependent nation, yet not a shipping nation, despite its huge contribution to global trade, playing marginally in the industry. It is on record that no fewer than 90% of shipping companies owned by Nigerians have either completely shut down their operations or barely struggling to survive, with an estimated annual cargo throughout of about 150 million metric tons generated, and with freight earnings in excess of $5 billion in international trade transactions. 95% of this income is earned by foreigners, with job deprivation to a lot of Nigerians. The same dominance by foreigners is also extended to the domestic shipping market, where an estimated $3 billion annual marine-related spending in the oil and gas production activities are virtually earned by foreigners. We have details here.
Look at the number of vessels that call in the Nigerian ports. Enormous. And are they Nigerian-owned vessels? No. Are they crewed by Nigerians? No. Are they owned by Nigerians? No. So that is a big part of investment that they need to look into. With this, you have the numbers. Look at the numbers. 95% of what comes into this economy is through the marine and blue economy. So I think the minister needs to look in depth as to how we can channel investments, or maybe the PPP, private partnership.
You can find out more about how we can increase indigenous participation and end foreign dominance in the shipping sector by watching Maritime Radar on Saturday, 7 p.m. and a repeat on Sunday, 1 p.m. on News Central Television. Let's now tell you that even as we stay in the region, President Patrice Talon of Benin Republic has denied plans to review the constitution of the West African country. Addressing a press conference in Cotonou, Talon promised to oppose the revision of the constitution.
Je ne demande aucune révision et je me poserai à la révision de la constitution. Pas les moyens qui me sont permis en disant non, il ne faut pas le faire. Et puis maintenant, s'ils le font comme je suis un démocrate et que ça s'impose à moi, je m'acharnerai à faire en sorte que ce que je trouve pas bien ne se fasse pas. Donc, à la limite, ne pas réviser. C'est moi mon choix de ne pas toucher la Constitution. 2, que les modifications à faire soient conformes à l'esprit de la Constitution et à l'éthique. Que le moment est arrivé pour faire le point.
Now, West Africa's regional bloc has appealed for unity after emergency talks on the withdrawal of 3 coup-hit countries from the group. The Economic Community of West African States Extraordinary Session also addressed President Macky Sall's decision to delay elections in Senegal a major concern for the region that came just a week after Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger declared their departure. The chairman of the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council urged the three countries not to leave, warning their exit would bring more hardship and do more harm to common citizens. Senegal's ministers attended, but representatives for Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger and Guinea, all suspended from ECOWAS following the coups, were not present.
ECOWAS's sanctions are decided by heads of state, and normally when unconstitutional outcomes or unconstitutional activities are undertaken, that is when ECOWAS considers sanctions, or when member state of ECOWAS acts in a manner that contravenes ECOWAS's instruments, including protocols and treaties. No country will walk away from a community that stands to benefit members.
Let's now bring you today's business news with Perpetua Fasomi Peter.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
In business, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, announced that the Apex Bank will cease granting Ways and Means advances to the federal government until the outstanding balance is repaid. Cardoso made his declaration during an interaction with the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions, alongside other officials including Sani Abdullahi, CBN Deputy Governor of Economic Policy, and ministers from various sectors. Ways and Means is a loan facility used by the central bank to cover the federal government's budget shortfalls. Cardoso emphasized compliance with the CBN Act 2007, stating that the bank will adhere to the law's provisions. He highlighted the importance of settling outstanding debts to curb inflation and noted the upcoming MPC meeting's role in addressing these issues. And in Ghana, in 2024, the government plans to borrow approximately 180 billion cedis through treasury bills, marking a 21% increase from the 149.92 billion cedis raised in 2023. Maturities are estimated at 150 cedis, reflecting a 28% growth compared to the previous year. Over 50% of the 61.9 billion cedis budget deficit is anticipated to be covered by treasury bills. Treasury bills are projected to continue dominating activity on the Ghana fixed income market. Databank research suggests that investors may favor shorter-dated Government of Ghana securities to manage risk, potentially reducing the likelihood of bond issuance. Despite expectations of declining yields due to positive inflation outlook, upward pressure persists from the government's high demand for money market funding. Treasury bills were consistently oversubscribed in 2023, indicating sustained investor demand for short-term investments to mitigate risk exposure. And in Mozambique, Mozambique has unveiled plans to emerge as a major hydropower producer in Africa, while pioneering a green hydrogen industry. According to a comprehensive energy transition strategy seen by Bloomberg, the government intends to add 14,000 megawatts of hydropower capacity by 2040, alongside initiating a hydrogen program this year. At the heart of the proposal is the Zambezi River, Africa's fourth longest. This strategic move seeks to leverage Mozambique's abundant energy resources to propel economic growth and industrialization. The plan, with an estimated cost of $80 billion by 2050, emphasizes attracting private investment and establishing industrial parks powered by clean energy. An initial measure involves retaining the 1,150 megawatts supply to South Africa from Kahura Bassa after the contract expires in 2030. While exports won't cease entirely, Mozambique aims to prioritize the utilization of its own resources for domestic development and electrification. And that's our business package at this hour. Thank you for watching. I am Perpetua Fasomi Peter. The news continues shortly. Bye for now.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Up next is sports news with Udoka Njoku.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
In sports, South African athlete Caster Semenya has appealed for funds for her legal battle against regulations requiring female athletes with high testosterone level to take medication as she prepares for a hearing in May at the European Court of Human Rights. During her press appearance in Johannesburg, South Africa, the double Olympic champion expressed that she would not have the money to pay the specialists who would be brought in to help her advance her cause during her next hearing. Caster Semenya, who is classed as having differences in sexual development but has always been legally identified as female, has refused to take drugs to reduce her testosterone levels since track and field's governing body, World Athletics, introduced the original rules in 2018.
For me, but I think the most important thing is that I need to remind the young girls about the basic human rights, because most of us young girls, we don't really know the meaning of our rights. We don't know, what it means to fight for our rights. We think being quiet will help us a lot. But the optimal goal about this is to make sure that young girls, in Africa and in Asia, they feel protected, they are happy in doing the sports. For me, doing this thing, it makes me feel fulfilled because I've enjoyed, the scrutiny, judgmental, racism, and discrimination. And I don't want, all these young girls to face, what I faced. For me, if I can, be able to, win this case, it will mean a lot to me, but also particularly for young African girls and Asians. Yeah.
Nigeria made their way to the finals of the Africa Cup of Nations after an epic semi-final battle with South Africa. Following their 1-0 win in the group stage over Ivory Coast, Nigeria will be looking to beat the host nation twice in a CAF tournament for the first time since 2006. Ivory Coast is the first host nation to reach the Africa Cup of Nations final since Egypt in 2006. 5 of the last 6 host nations to reach the final have won the tournament, the exception being Nigeria in the year 2000, where they lost on penalties to Cameroon. DR Congo defender Dylan Batubentika considers Ivory Coast as the title favorite, but also acknowledges Nigeria's strength.
Playing at home could be an advantage for Ivory Coast. But Nigeria is a very good team, and let us remember that this will be the final, and nothing is done yet. So we will see how things will work, while pointing out that the fact that Cote d'Ivoire is playing at home could be an advantage for the team.
Manchester United have reportedly held discussions with Kobbie Mainoo's representatives in the hope of coming to an agreement over a new long-term deal at Old Trafford. The midfielder, who has been with the Red Devils since the age of 9, made his senior debut for the 20-time English champions last January, and he ended the 2022-2023 campaign with 3 outings for the first time. Mainoo has featured on 13 occasions in all competitions, scoring twice in the process. The 18-year-old has become a key player for Erik ten Hag's side in recent weeks, with each of his 9 Premier League appearances this season coming as a starter. And that's a wrap on Sports Updates. I am Udoka Njoku.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Next is entertainment news.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
And now in entertainment on Continental Prime, Nigerian sensational singer Victony is set to make waves with an exciting collaboration featuring none other than American stars Post Malone and Sway Lee on a hot new track. Take it to Twitter on the 5th of this month. Victony set the internet abuzz, challenging fans to rake up 2,000 retweets in just 2 hours to unlock the release date for his latest tune. now the wait is over as Victoni's highly anticipated track, titled Everything, dropped. Surprisingly, Victoni isn't stopping there. He also hinted at an exciting collaboration with American artist St. John. And now, on the international scene, hip-hop star Nicki Minaj is back in the spotlight with a groundbreaking collaboration that merges Trinidad and Nigeria. Teasing a remix to Burna Boy's hit, Tested, Approved, and Trusted on Instagram, Minaj fans are excited about the fusion, in fact, Africans as well. The original track appeared on Burna Boy's album, I Told Them. If released, this remix would mark Minaj's first official collaboration with Burna Boy. Additionally, fresh off her Pink Friday the 2nd release, Minaj is gearing up for her world tour starting on the 1st of March this year in Oakland, California. In other news, her recent diss track, Bigfoot, aimed at Megan Thee Stallion, debuted impressively on the charts, showcasing Minaj's ongoing influence in the industry. And finally, just ahead of his Super Bowl halftime show, music icon Usher drops his 9th studio album, Coming Home, marking his debut as an independent artist. In an interview with the Los Angeles Times, Usher describes Coming Home as more than just an album. It's a lifestyle and a deeper immersion into various aspects beyond music. Featuring 20 tracks, the album boasts collaborations with artists like Burna Boy from Nigeria, Summer Walker, and Her. As Usher gears up for his Super Bowl performance at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, fans wonder if he'll include tracks from Coming Home. While the set list remains undisclosed, incorporating songs from his latest release seems like a fitting move. For those eager to sing along, Usher's Usher Past, Present, Future tour kicks off in August, giving fans plenty of time to familiarize themselves with his latest musical offerings. Get ready for an unforgettable concert experience this spring and summer. Well, that's much you can take on entertainment. I'm Sam Dandy, back with the rest of the news.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
And that's all at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. Central Bank of Nigeria says interventions to stabilize Naira yield positive results. West Africa bloc has urged reconciliation with coup-hit states. We told you that President Talon has denied plans to revise the constitution. Do send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. You can follow us on social media via @NewsCentralTV. And you can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onobanjo.